Alright, flux core arc welding. Flux core arc limited tubular electrode welding has been evolved from the MIG welding process. Improve the arc action with the metal, train with the metal properties with the welding, appearing with the also arc welding process within the heat of the welding is provided by an arc of the twin that continuously fed with the tubular electrode wire with the workpiece shielding is obtained with the flux contained within the tubular electrode wire with the flux externally supplied with the shielding gas diagram process that's shown in figure 1055. Flux core arc welding slag, molten slag, solidified weld, molten metal with gas, optional flux core electrode arc, the nozzle option direction of the travel. Flux core arc welding is similar with the gas metal arc welding in any way with the flux core arc welding wire. This process will give it the differential character of the flux core arc welding is widely used with welding for air smells, in particular when the good with the application for the high deposition rates that are needed. Highly welding currents with the arc with the smoothing and the more manageable welding when compared is in using large diameter gas metal arc welding electrode with the carbon dioxide with the arc of the welding pool are clearly visible with the welder with the all slag coating on the left of the surface of the weld B with the which must be removed. So the filler metal of the transfer off the sum of the spatter created with some smoke produced. Equipment of the weave and the flux core arc welding, similar to that used for the gas metal arc welding, basic arc welding equipment. It consists of the power source of the control with the wire feed welding gun welding cable. The major difference between the gas shielded arc welding and the self shielded electrodes if the gas shielded arc weldings are required with the gas shielded system. They may also have an effect of the type of the welding gun used. The fume extractors are often used within this process. For machines that automatic welding, several items use the seam followers in motion of the devices added to the basic equipment. The figure 1056 shows the diagram of the equipment of the semi-automatic flux core arc welding. Our figure 1056 shows the equipment of flux core arc welding, base metal work lead with gas, without gas, gun control, gun out, get wire feed, gas control system, wire feed, motor, contactor control, electro lead, 100 volt supply, power voltage control, electro feed, wired feed, reel, shielding gas source optional. The power source of the welding machine provided with electrical power for the proper volts for the amperage to maintain with the welding arc with the power source for the operator with the 230 to 460 volt input with the machine with the operator with the 200 575 volt input are also available. The power source for the operator with the either single phase with the three phase with the input with a frequency of 50-60 hertz. More power source over the flex cord arc with the welding have the duty of the 100% of the which indicate that can be used to work and weld continuously. Some of the machines used with the process they have the duty cycle of 60%, which means they can be used for 6 minutes out every 10 minutes for the power source. It's generally recommended the flux core arc welding the direct current with a constant voltage but rotating generator static single and three phase to transfer rectifiers used with the same power source with the gas metal with the arc welding used with the flux core arc welding. Flux core arc welding generally with the use of the higher welding current with the gas metal arc welding. They sometimes require with the larger power source. The important with the use of the power source with the capable of the producing maximum current level required for the application. Flux core arc welding used with the direct current. With the direct current can be either with a reverse or straight polarity. Flux core electrode wires are designed to operate with not only the direct current electrode positive, the direct current negative. The wire designed with the either external gas shielding system are generally designed with the direct current electrode positive. Some of the shielding flux core ties are used with the direct current electrical positive, the other develop with the use of the direct current and electronegative with the positive current with the give the better penetration. The weld the joint electronegative give the lighter penetration. The use of the welding thinner metal with the metals where the pore fit up with the welding created with the direct current and electronegative is wire and shallower with the direct current electro positive. Generator welding machines used with the process can be powered by either an electro rotor for a shop or by internal combustion engine with a field application for the gasoline diesel engine driven welding machine with the either liquid of the air cooled engine with the motor driven the generator that provide a very stable arc, but are noisier and more expensive to consume with more power that require more maintenance than higher transformer rectifiers. Alright, wire feed motor provided with more driven electrode through the cable gun with the work. There are several different wire feeding systems available. The systems of selection depends upon the application. Most of the wire feed systems use the flux core arc welding constant speed type with the use of the constant voltage power source with the variable speed with the wire feed with the voltage sensing circle the use the maintains for the desired arc length with the wire varying wire feed speed with the variation arc length. The increase with the decrease of the wire feed speed with the wire feed real feeder consists of an electrical rotor connected with a gearbox containing driver roll. The gearbox with the wire feeder motor shown in figure 1057 would have then formed a feed rolls and then gearbox. Show that the gas out with the 110 volt supply welding machine. Both air-cooled and water-cooled guns are used in flux core arc welding. Air-cooled guns are primarily with the surrounding air with the but shielding gas when used to provide additional cooling effect. The water-cooled guns have ducts to permit water to circulate with around the contact of the nozzle. The water-cooled guns permit the more efficient but effective with the cooling of the gun. With the water-cooled guns are recommended for the use of welding currents of greater than 600 amps. That is preferred with many of the applications using 500 amps. Welding guns are rated at a maximum current capacity for the continuous operation. Air-cooled guns are preferred most applications less than 500 amps. The water water-cooled guns may also be used with the air-cooled guns, lighter and easier to manipulate. Shielding gas equipment and electrodes. Shielding gas equipment for the gas of the shield with the flex core wire consists of the gas supply hose, gas regulator, control valves, and supply hose to the welding gun. The shielding gas are supplied with the liquid form of the area and the storage tank with the vapor out with the gas form of the high-pressure cylinders. Exemption to this is carbon dioxide. When put in the high-pressure cylinders, it exists in both liquid and gas forms. Alright, primary purpose of the shielding gas is to protect the arc of the welding puddle with the contamination effect of the atmosphere with the nitrogen and oxygen atmosphere. If allowed, they come in contact with the molten weld of the metal. Cause porosity and brittleness in the flux core arc welding. Shielding is accomplished with the decomposition of electric core with a combination of this of the surrounding of the arc with the shielding gas supplied with the external source with the shielding gas displayed for the air the air in the arc area. Welding is accomplished under the blanket of the shielding gas and air and inactive gas may be both used with the flux core arc welding. Active gas with carbon dioxide, argon, oxygen mixture. Argon and carbon dioxide the mixture be used for almost all applications with carbon dioxide is most common. The choice of the proper shielding gas with a specific application may be based on the type of the metal, the arc characteristics of the metal transfer, availability of the cost of the gas, of the mechanical property, requirement of the penetration, and the weld bead, and the shape of the various gases are summarized below. Your carbon dioxide is manufactured from fuel gas, which is given off with the burning of the natural gas as gas or fuel or oil or coke. Also obtained with this byproduct of the calcium operation of the lime liquid of the manufacture of ammonia from the fermentation alcohol, which is almost 100% of the pure with the carbon dioxide made with available to user either in the cylinder with the bulk with the contained with the cylinder is more common in the bulk system. Carbon dioxide usually drawn off as a liquid, heated to the gas state before going to the welding tour for the bulk system. Normally only used when supplying a large number of the welding station. Cylinder with the carbon dioxide is in both liquid and vapor from the liquid carbon dioxide, occupying the approximately 2/3 of the space within the cylinder by way of the approximately 90% of the content of the cylinder. Above the liquid, it exists for the vapor gas. The carbon dioxide is drawn from the cylinder, it replaced with the carbon dioxide that vaporizes from the liquid from the cylinder. Therefore, the overall pressure for the will indicated by the pressure gauge. When the pressure of the cylinder has dropped, the 200 psi of the cylinder shall be replaced with a new cylinder. A positive pressure should always be left in the cylinder in order to prevent moisture and the other contamination from backing off into the cylinder. Normal discharge rate of the carbon dioxide cylinder is about 10 to 50 cubic feet per minute. However, the maximum discharge rate of the 25 cubic feet per hour is recommended when welding either the cylinder, single cylinder vapor pressure with the drops with the cylinder pressure, the discharge pressure through a carbon dioxide regulator absorb the great deal of the heat. The flow rates are set with a high with the absorption of heat can lead to freezing of the regulator flow, meaning the interrupts the shielding gas with the flow rate with a higher with the 25 cubic feet per minute. The required the normal practice of the manifold of the loop carbon dioxide cylinders in parallel place with the heater between the cylinder and gas regulator, pressure regulator flow, meaning with excessive flow rates can result with the drawing of liquid from the cylinder. Carbon dioxide with the most widely used shielding gas for flux core arc welding. Most active gases cannot be used for shielding, but most carbon dioxide provides several advantages for even the welding. Steel with the deeper the penetration, the low cost of the carbon dioxide promotes globular transfer. The carbon dioxide shield the gas breaks down into the composition components of the carbon monoxide, oxygen, because of the carbon dioxide is an oxidizing gas. The deoxidizing elements are added to the core with the electrode wire to remove the oxygen oxide form, and the deoxidizing elements float with the surface of the welding and they become the part of the slag covering some of the carbon dioxide gases with the breakdown of the carbon dioxide. If the carbon cannot with the welded pool is below about 0.5%. 0.05% of the carbon dioxide shield will tend to increase the carbon content of the welded metal with the carbon will reduce the corrosion resistance. Some of the stainless steel is a problem with the critical corrosion application. The extra of the carbon will contain to reduce the toughness, ductility of the some low alloy steel with the carbon content with the welded metal with greater than 100 of the percent. Carbon dioxide shield will tend with the reduce of the carbon content with the loss of the carbon can be attributed to the formation of the carbon dioxide, which can be trapped in the weld as a porosity deoxidizing element and the flux core reducing the effect of the carbon monoxide formation. Argon carbon dioxide mixture with the carbon dioxide with a sometimes mixture with the use of the flux core arc welding. High percent of the argon gas in the mixture tend to promote the higher deposition efficiency due to the creation of the less power. The most commonly used with the gas mixture in flux core arc welding is about 75% of the argon, 25% of the carbon dioxide mixture with the gas mixture produces a finer globular metal transfer. The approach with the spray and it reduces the amount of the oxidation occurred compared with the pure carbon dioxide with the weld deposited in the argon carbon dioxide shield generally with a higher tensile yield strength of the carbon dioxide mixtures are often used with the off position welding when achieving the better arc character for the mixtures are often used with low alloy steel. Stainless steel electrodes are then designed with the use of the carbon dioxide may cause the excessive buildup of the magnesium, and silicon, or other deoxidizing elements that if they are used with a shielding gas mixture containing a high percentage of the argon, this will have the effect of the mechanical properties of the weld. Argon and oxygen mixtures. Argon and oxygen mixtures contain 1 to 2% of the oxygen used for some of the application of the argon and oxygen mixtures tend to promote spray train with a reduced amount with the spatter produced. The major application of these mixtures with the welding stainless steel with the carbon dioxide can cause corrosion problems. The electrode used in flux core arc welding provide the filler metal with the welded metal welded puddle with the shielding of the for the arc. The shielding is required with the same electrode types. The purpose of the shielding gas is to provide the protection from the atmosphere of the arc of the molten weld. The pool of the chemical composition of the electrode wire flux core with the combination of the shielding gas will determine the welding composition. Mechanical properties of the weld. The electrode for flux core arc welding consists of the metal shielding surrounding the core fluxing alloying compound shown in Figure 1058 with the core carbon steels, low alloy carbon electrodes contain primarily fluxing compounds. Some of the low alloy steel electrode carriers contain high amounts of low alloy compounds. The low flux of the content, but the most low alloy steel electrodes require gas shield sheet compromising approximately 75 to 90% of the weight of the electrode shelf. Shielding electrodes contain more of the fluxing compounds of the gas electrode. Shielding electrode of the compounds contained in the electrode perform basically with the same function as coating covered electrode with the shield metal arc welding. These functions are to form a slide coating of the floats to the surface of the welded metal with the protection during solidification. 2. The provided the deoxidizer scavengers will help purify the produce the solid welded metal. Provided the arc stabilizer will reduce the smooth welding arc or keep the spatter minimum. To adding alloy elements, welded metal will increase the strength and improve the other properties of the welded metal. Provide shielding gas shielding welded wire required to external supply with the shielding gas supplemented to produce the core of the electrode sheath and core of the aluminum materials and flags and flag formers. Shows the cross section of flux cord wire. Alright, the classification system of the tubular wire electrodes were divided with the American Welding Society. Carbon low alloy steels are classified on the basis of the following items: the mechanical property of welded metal, welding position, chemical composition, welded metal, type of the welding current, whether or not the CO2 shielding gas is used. The example, the carbon steel electrode classification E70T4 with the weather E indicate the electrode, second digit 7 indicate the minimum tensile strength within 10,000 pounds. To be able 1012 with the page 1074 show the mechanical property requirement of the various carbon steel of the electrode. The third digit 0 indicate the welding position. 0 indicates the flat horizontal position. 1 indicates all the positions. Alright, flux core arc welding. The T stand for the tubular flux core wire classification. Suffix 4 will give the performance usability capability shown in figure 10.13. Which give the G classification with the U for this non-specific performance usable requirement to indicate with the classification. 10 for the electrodes not covered with another classification. Chemical composition requirements for the deposit of the welded metal with the carbon steel electrodes are shown in the table of 1014. For the single pass electrode with the do not have the chemical composition requirement that causes the check of the chemistry with the undiluted welded metal does not give the true result for the normal single pass welded chemistry with the mechanical properties requirements carbon and steel flux core wire, and then show the tables. Or the classification of low alloy steel electrodes are similar to the classification of carbon steel electrode with example low alloy steel classification E81T1912. The E indicates electrode, the second digit of the 8 indicates the maximum tensile strength with 10,000 pounds, and gave the 80,000 pound PSI mechanical property requirement of the low alloy steel electrode shown in the table 1015. Impact strength requirements that's shown in the table 1016. Third digit 1 indicates the welding position capabilities of the flat of the capabilities. 1 indicates all the positions. 0 indicates flat horizontal position only. The T indicates a tubular flux cord electrode used in flux cord arc welding. Fifth digit, the 1 describes the usability performance characteristics of the electrode with the 3 digits, same U with the carbon steel with the electrode classification, and then or U with the low alloy steel flux core electrode classification. The suffix of the nickel tube, Ni tube tells the chemical composition of the deposit of the welded metal shown in the table 1017, page 1078. And then the classification welded, some of the stainless steel electrodes are based on the chemical with the composition welded metal type of the shielding to be employed during the welding. An example of the stainless steel electrode classification E38 and 38. The E38T1 whether E indicates the electrode, the digit with the E with the indicate with the T indicate with the chemical composition shown in the table at 1018, page 1080. The T designates the tubular flux core electrode wire. The suffix 1 indicate the type of the shielding to be used and shown in the 10 table 1019, page 1081. Alright, Shit, the welding cable, the connection with the, or contact with the power strip of the welding gun with the work with the cable that's normally made with the copper cable that consists of the hundreds of the wire with the clothing encapsulated with the case of the natural synthetic rubber the cable to connect with the power strip with the welding of the gun. It's called the electro lead with the semi-automatic welding of the cables, often part with the cable assembly, which also conclude with the shielding gas over the conduit with the electro wire it is fed through. For the machining, automatic welding electrode is normally separated with the cable to connect the work to the power strip that is called with the work lead. With the work leads are usually connected to the work or the pinchers, clamps, and bolts. The size of the welding cable depends on the output capacity of the welding machine. The duty cycle of the machine, the distance between the welding machine and the work of the cables have the range for the smallest American wire gauge number 8 and American wire gauge 4.0 amperage rating is 75 amperes on up and 10 to 20 show the recommended cable size due to the different welding currents for the cable length and cable that is too small that may become too hot during welding. Alright, your advantage. The major advantage of flux core welding is reduced cost, higher deposition rate with the shield metal arc welding, solid wire, and the gas metal arc welding. The cost less for the flux core arc core electrodes because of the alloying agent in the flux, not in the steel of the filler wire with it as well with the solid electrode. The flux core welding is ideal with the best bead appearance and important to know matching of the welding is required. Flux core welding with the carbon dioxide shield. The gas can be used for mild steel of the construction application. For the result, welding of the higher strength of the less ductility than from the carbon dioxide shielding is used. The less porosity, the greater penetration from the weld of the carbon dioxide shielding. Flux core process the increase of the tolerance for the scale of the dirt with the less for the welded spat within the solid wire. MIG welding is higher with the deposition rate with the faster travel speed. Often using small diameter electrode wire with the welding can be done within all positions. Some of the flux core wire do not need the external supply with the shielding gap. To simplify with the equipment, electrical wire with the feed continuously with the very little time spent with the changing electrode with higher percentage of the filler metal is deposited when compared to by shielded metal arc. Finally, better penetration is obtained with the shielded metal arc welding. Our disadvantage most at low alloy middle electrodes or flux core on type of the most sensitive to change with the welding condition for shielded metal arc welding. Sensitive to the call of the voltage tolerance can be decreased with the shielding gas. Use slag forming components with the core material or increase and constant potential power so the constant speed electrode feeder are needed to maintain constant arc voltage. Shit. Your process principle, the flux core welding wire with the electrode is hollow with a tube filled with a mixture of the dioxide fluxing agents, metal power with the ferro alloys, closure sleeves of the will appear with the fine line with the only visible the difference between the flux core wire with the solid cold drawn wire. Flux core to electrode wire can be drawn in two ways. Carbon dioxide gas can be used with the flux provided with additional shielding of the flux core along with the provide all of the shielding gas slagging materials. Carbon dioxide shielding gas produced with a deeply penetrating arc with it usually provided to be better than those possible without an external gas shield. With although flux core arc welding may be applied with the semi-automatic machining automatically with the process usually applied with the semi-automatically and semi-automatically widening the wire feeds the electrode wire with the power source that maintains the arc length of the welder, manipulate with the welding gun, adjust the wire welding parameters. Flux core arc welding is used with the machine welding in addition with the feeding of the wire with the maintaining the arc length of the machinery. Also provides joint travel. The welding operator continuously monitors welding and makes adjustments of the welding parameters. Automatic welding is used in high production applications. Alright, 1014, submerged arc welding.